Hello, everybody. We are live for another Unapologetically Bold. I'm not sorry for, and I am so excited to have Rishita on with me today. You are just one of the most amazing people. And I always say you don't want to have people that are exactly like minded. You want to have them more like hearted. And me and you, I feel like we are on the same heart plane here on our what we talk about, our passions and our goals. So it is such a blessing, I believe, for the audience to hear you speak today, but also it's a blessing for me as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. It's my pleasure to be here. Absolutely, I agree with you. From the first moment that we connected, it was sort of an instant heart-to-heart connection. And I have one thing to say, actually. You bring out the best in me. In essence, that's what happens in life, right? People bring out something in each other, and it turns out that actually I'm a reflection of you and you're a reflection of me, and that's beautiful.
Yes, and I love how you said that too. That's awesome. So before I get started into it, I do want to ask people to please continue to like, subscribe, and share, as our goal is to give you some positivity, but not like the rainbows and butterflies positivity, actual skills and real world experience on things that you can take back to your home, work, and play. Because that's the beauty of this is it is about being unapologetically bold for you to be a human, because you're human in all of them. But sometimes we feel like we have to be different in different scenarios. So with that, Rishita, what are you not sorry for?
I'm not sorry for a lot of things, but most of them I'm not sorry for being soft.
I love that. So explain that to me, what soft means to you whenever you at first hearing that.
So where this is coming from actually is really, in the workplace, we have typically two types of skills: hard skills and soft skills. And I work in HR, so my background is in HR, and basically the focus, the HR has had until now has really been on sort of the technical side of things, really, making sure that people are competent and capable to achieve certain objectives and outcomes, and really forgetting the human side of it, so the softer skills, so to speak. And actually, for me, the softer skills are the harder things, and it's actually what we should be focusing on to create a more human environment and experience in the workplace. So my focus in HR is actually to bring love, humanity, and softness into everything that we do. So no, I am not sorry for being soft.
And the thing that I found is that in this bringing humanity to the workforce and seeing people as humans instead of workhorses, that sometimes, and also the aspect of, are they human doings? They're not, they're human beings. And so the focus on that, tell me how soft skills have helped in the work that you do. And the irony is that I found is that whenever you do the soft skills, it actually pays off in the long run and has a higher ROI whenever you look at it. So talk about that for me.
Absolutely. I think one of the things is that we've, where at least HR's come from typically is from, if you look back, I mean, I've been in HR since 2002 without wishing to give my age away. And when I started the work, our work was really to more of a protectionist. So it's about ensuring compliance to processes and policies. It was about protecting, legal, the legal side of things. It's about really being, protecting of the business and and employees were just there to serve the means to profit and shareholder, value. And what happens is that, of course, we really forgot the human side of things, and we started focusing too much on sort of the machinery and productivity and all the sort of the output of things. And then we start seeing then, the fact that we're standardizing. So it's great to have standards, but standardization, which takes away humanity and takes away individual differences and respect, is just not right. So then we see, of course, this huge rise in mental illness, in people basically not being able to stay in jobs, in lack of sort of disengagement. And the statistics show that your manager is more responsible for your mental health and well-being than your actual doctor. So for me, it all started with actually when I was introduced to an agile way of working about 5 years ago. I deal a lot with projects in HR. I think a lot everything that we do is a project, has a beginning, a delivery, and it has stakeholders. So I did this agile project management, quite technical in focus, but actually everything about this, the principles were all about people. People, over processes, interactions, over sort of, contracts. It was all about connecting with one another, because everything that we do has a person behind it. Most of the things that we do has a person associated to it. So if we're not able to connect to their level, to understand where they are, then we're not going to be able to sort of move things along in the right way. And we have typically also very much in organizations, we have the sort of, we tend to manage and focus only on weaknesses. And that is one of the things that I'm really trying to change. Start moving towards performance and strengths-based management.
And that is something that's very unique too, is that you are, and I bet you're not dismissing weaknesses, but that strengths are something that people need to highlight. And how have you found whenever people realize what their strengths are? First question is, when do people typically find their strengths? Because it seems like it's later in life, like it's in their 30s or in sometimes 40s for that. What do you think there?
Well, I guess I think strengths is also is how you see strengths, but also when you're in a state of flow, that's really when you're when things are flowing, when you're feeling good. Think about sort of our own experiences. When we're enjoying something, then we're playing to our strengths, and when we're doing that, we're being most productive. So I think it's a kind of going from there, but there's also the other side of it. Some people say, well, but I work in a job where actually it's not really about me doing what I love, but I also say actually this is about learning to love what you do. So find something that allows you to love what you do. So there's also an element that we also have to quite actively and consciously bring that element into it as well. Organizations that basically, enjoy strengths-based management, they enjoy more profit, better sales, higher levels of customer engagement. And this is in partly due to the fact that employees feel positive about their performance. They're able to work to their strengths. They feel more engaged and therefore more passionate about what they do. So this is not to say that we ignore weaknesses. We're not saying that. It's of course it's good to improve weaknesses, and they're still critical to employee development. But instead of insisting that everyone is basically an all-round great team player in everything that they do, we're better off assigning projects to teams where the responsibilities are basically mapped out according to everyone's strengths. So we're really moving away here. Then you see the idea is moving away from this individual. Performance management to actually teams, moving from teams to, moving away from individuals to teams, basically.
And that makes me think of, if you've gotten an email from me, so you know what my signature says, but it says the kiss of death is to be the genius with 10,000 helpers, instead be the genius with 10,000 geniuses. And the focus is that everybody has something to give. And it's about individually learning your people, which takes another step. It takes those soft skills. So what are some of your highest or like your top recommendations for new leaders about soft skills? Which ones are you like, oh, this is my go-to? Y'all just need to start out with this one.
I think the one which, so if we go back to people, right, what drives and motivates people? Because if we sort of answer what is the end that we have in mind, right? So what drives and motivates people is actually the fact that they can make an impact. So they want to make an impact. They want to grow, and they want to feel like they belong. So purpose, and all these things are actually underpinned by one thing: is actually empathy. So when you understand, when you put yourself in the shoes of the people that that you are interacting with, then you're really creating an inclusive environment. And when you create inclusion, you create belonging. When you create belonging, you create happiness, and that leads to that. What we want essentially is that discretionary effort, and that is basically what distinguishes between high performance and average performers. So it's a win-win. I think the starting point really is empathy, and this is where we really need to. And this is very much tied to emotional intelligence. And unfortunately, I haven't seen so much emotional intelligence training being given the focus that it needs in organizations, and this is particularly important now since COVID and this remote working. We're really seeing the lack of empathy really come up in our organizations, and the engagement levels and mental health and well-being.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I feel like this one thing about COVID is it's ugly in its own right, but it's also beautiful on the other end, in that it is bringing humanity to the forefront. And there was Gallup did a research, and basically it was saying like the newest jobs coming out soon, and one of them, or majority of them, were about well-being or purpose-driven, or things that are about humanity. And
Absolutely.
this is something that was really helped me in my shift, because my background's in engineering, and so as an engineer, like, you design things and people come to you and they're like, hey, this is designed wrong, and as an engineer, I need to know what I'm making and how it's meant to be designed. But we don't do that with humans, and we in essence put them in an engineered environment, and it's like, hey, if you do something wrong, it's your fault. Well, can we look and see how we've engineered it? If you're putting people that are not to their strengths, and you're throwing things, or you're promoting people because they're good at hard skills, but then soft skills fall off, it hurts in the end. So talk to people about that, on why you're not sorry for those soft skills. And do you put more importance on soft or hard, or how is that a balance? What is that for you?
I think everything in life is really about balance, right? You can't have too much of one thing, because every time you have too much of one thing, there's too little of something else. And it's all, when we have this sort of this one size fits all approach to development, then suddenly you start sort of taking away people's individualities and differences, and this is where basically you start seeing the lack of equity coming into the workplace. So soft skills really, is really about ensuring that we're beginning to see people and treating people with the respect that they deserve, to really meeting people where they are. It's about really understanding that, we're all different, but we all have the same dreams, hopes, ambitions, but we're also dealing with certain things in our lives. And this is actually what you say, this is what COVID has highlighted, that the focus in organizations has been a lot about equality, which is about sameness, so basically treating everybody the same and giving everyone access to the same opportunities. But actually, equity is about fairness, because we have to understand that, two team members may be coming into the same, situation or environment with a very different set of circumstances. So if we're able to bring the soft skills into play, into our organizations, into our management and leadership, then we're really able to provide the right kinds of support to our people. We can start filling in the gaps, and everyone starts in the same place, and we have a better opportunity to succeed.
What, in your experience in the past, has this been like the biggest when was your eye-opening moment that this matters?
I think for me was when I had my daughter. So this was about 5 years ago. Six, actually, she's 6. So this was about 6 years ago when I had my child, and I kind of realized how the workplace was not really designed to cater for the minority. So, basically, what are the majority groups, in the majority population or representation in the workplace, and it's catering for them, or the strongest or the loudest. And I felt that those that, so the sort of the employee journey of the minority wasn't taken into account. And I really felt sort of the biggest shock when I went back into work, because in the Netherlands, maternity leave is only 3 months. And, your hormones are still all over the place. And I know it's not, it's still good compared to other countries. So I'm not saying that, but from a personal perspective, it was all over the place, very, little support, little understanding, little sort of meeting me, where I was. So I really felt the unfairness of that. And that's why I realized, actually, I want to change the way that we do things. I work in HR. I need to do a better job. I need to inspire a better job at this.
And I know that a lot of HR gets a flack for them being more policing and in that policy structure. In the new future HR, what are some key principles do you think that they need for leading humanity to the next? Because it's like you just said, you're a working mom. Life happens. We're human, all of them,
Yeah.
and you want us to box it up. What would you say is like some of the big things that you're like, oh, if we could just have this, or I'm working
I
for it.
think
I know you're doing some of it now.
it's interesting. I mean, I've just sort of written a chapter of a book that's coming out, which is about agile HR, and it's really talking about sort of the future of work and the future of HR, where HR is working, is going towards. And what you see is that there's a renewed urgency here for HR, leaders to reinvent the future of HR by letting go of legacy models and ways of working. In order to actually, first and foremost, we need to reestablish trust and cooperation within organizations.
Mhm.
And really important here is to create a sort of continuous learning mindset, which will enable, innovation, agility, flexibility. So what this sees is placing HR in a central role in the business, not as just a partner or on the periphery or on the outside. It's really as a people coach, centrally in the business as a people coach or consultant. So, and there are kind of 4 principles I think we need to consider here. HR is going to be sort of, from a coaching perspective, people coaching perspective, going to adhere to 4 principles, coaching the whole person. And this is really about bringing in your personal and your professional together. We are one people, we are one person at home or at work. So we need to start sort of, accepting this. And when we're talking about development or objectives or setting goals, we need to be doing, we need to be looking at both. We then need to keep it real, really human to human, understanding individual differences, understanding what drives you, what motivates you, but what also the hardships that you're facing. What is your personal situation at home? How can I sort of, create more equity, towards you? Then it's about listening and listening authentically, really, not just listening for the sake of listening, but really, being curious, asking the right questions and listening deeply. And then we have to partner with managers here, because we need to ensure that there is alignment when it comes to, coaching employees and developing them. So we have to become very close to them to ensure that we're all coming at it from the same perspective. So ultimately, for HR, the future revolves around developing a culture of reflection, empowerment, and engagement, for individuals, teams, and organizations.
I love that. And what do you see how this, in essence, because what we talked about earlier is that we know that now that our work has more impact than our primary care doctor. So what impact do you think this will have on homes whenever people come home from it all?
Sorry, can you explain what impact of what? Sorry.
The impact to the house, to the household, to the family dynamics. What do you think it will impact on that whenever HR finally gets to this future, what you had talked about?
Right. Yeah.
Those 4 things.
It's a boomerang, right? It's we seem to sort of forget that the energy that we have around us sort of stays with us. Is whatever we feel, we attract, and then we put out there again. So when we finally start seeing people, from a people perspective, from an individual perspective, and start catering to them and to their needs, what you start seeing is people who are finally, more at ease, more in a state of flow, feeling happier, and they take that back home with them. And then, because actually, organizations and managers have a lot to answer. They have a lot of responsibility for how people show up at home, as a mother, as a father, how much patience we have, how much time we give them. I was reading a book by Raj Sisodia of Conscious, Capitalism, and he actually talks about how organizations have taken and stripped people away from their roles from home. This whole consultancy model of people have to work away from home for 5 days or a whole week at a time, taking that away, taking them away from their families. And actually, he says that organizations should be thinking about stakeholders, that family members are also stakeholders, and they should be part of the whole equation at work as well. And they need to be included into this process. So I think, we're definitely going to see the boomerang effect, because if you're happy at work and you're doing well, you're engaged, you're healthy, the same is going to happen at home. And then that's going to come back to work the next day. And then the cycle just continues.
Yes. Because that's what I've seen too, is that a lot of the time things that I teach, I need them personally, but two, it's my kids have taught me so much, and how it's been, I can apply it to work environments on how to have fun, how to play, and how to be innovative and creative. And I feel like sometimes that's been taken out of work because we just are hard, and we just want to get it done and be productive and just be a machine almost at times.
Yeah.
And that's not everybody. And I do want to preface that is not all companies. A lot of companies are really working hard to take this step forward in HR, but also in the step forward of how are they impacting their stakeholders. In essence, not just like you said, not just the people, but also their family. So to end on this, what would you say to somebody that keeps apologizing for using soft skills in work?
Stop apologizing for using soft skills at work, because you are basically giving somebody else a voice. You're giving somebody, you're seeing someone, you're feeling and hearing someone, you're making someone feel mattered. And at the end of the day, that's all we want, right? We want to be seen, heard, and we want to be respected as individuals of who we are. So give that person the voice, hear them out, give them a chance.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was such an amazing talk. And I think it's very important just to note that, yes, we're talking about soft skills. We're not saying that we don't need hard skills. We're saying they are needed. But what we are saying is that soft matters, and it needs to come to the forefront. Just as we need IQ, we need EQ, and we need to come together with this all. So thank you again. And thank you for everybody that joined us. I hope you have an amazing and blessed day.